Hello everyone and welcome to a special episode of Hymnology, a show about psalms, hymns, spiritual songs, and everything in between. I'm your host, Sawyer. If you have been in the hymn world for any amount of time, you have probably taken the time to hear a hymn you like, go into Google, type in the song that you want, and have this list of responses. And usually you're going to have quite a lot of results, but you're always going to find somewhere at the top of the list a website called hymnary.org. And if you click on that, what you'll see is a plethora of information about the one song that you want to listen to. You may see the story behind the song, the person who wrote the song, the music behind the song, but you'll also find information about it such as scanned copies of old hymnals that people have uploaded to the site. You'll find all sorts of information about the background of this song. So, who is behind this outstanding resource? Well, today we're going to meet that man. And that man is Harry Plantinga. Harry Plantinga is my guest today, and he is a professor at Calvin University, but he is also the founder of hymnary.org. We're going to talk to Harry today about the background of Hymnary, kind of how it got started. We're going to talk about how you can use Hymnary, maybe even as a worship leader, a music director, but also as someone who could be using Hymnary as a devotional source. And then we're also going to see the future of Hymnary and some new projects that Harry and his team have going on over at Hymnary. So I hope you take the time to watch this interview and take advantage of this great resource.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Hymnology. Thank you so much for joining me. Today on the show, I have an exciting guest, and he is Harry Plantinga of hymnary.com. Harry, thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah. So if anybody has been interested in hymns in the hymn world, if you're a worship leader or maybe you use hymns for your devotion, you've probably come across hymnary.com with just a simple Google search. Well, there is more to that than just the website. There is a ministry behind this and a history behind this. And I thought it would be interesting to kind of see what that background is. So Harry, if you wouldn't mind just kind of sharing a little bit about who you are.
Sure. Yeah, I am a professor of computer science at Calvin University.
Okay.
I've been here 20 years or so. I taught computer science at the University of Pittsburgh and then at Wheaton College in Illinois and now at Calvin University. And currently I spend about half my time teaching and half my time directing hymnary.org and other related projects.
Okay, so that is a unique background because usually most people that we have here and speak with are either in the singer-songwriter background or they're in the worship pastor background. But computer sciences is usually not the background that we have. So, kind of, what was that trail like? So you're in computer sciences, and then what sparked the idea of Hymnary?
Yeah, well, the story really starts in Pittsburgh when I taught at the University of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And after a health crisis with my children, I found a copy of a book called The Internet of Christ on, well, the web didn't really exist yet then, but it was on a Gopher site. And that was useful for me. And then I read that and I scanned a copy of it and I put it on another Gopher site. And at about that time, a grad student came into my office and said, you got to try this cool thing out. It's a program. It's called Mosaic.
Okay.
And I don't know if you remember Mosaic, but
what year was this?
Yeah, this was in 1993. And he said,
I definitely don't remember it from 93.
He said, you can view documents web pages from other servers, and there's like 50 servers in the world, and there's
Yeah.
pictures. So this was a big deal back then, and that's why I started a website in 1993, probably one of the first 1,000 websites or so, called Christian Classics Ethereal Library.
Okay.
And it had classic Christian books, and I spent an hour a day scanning one, putting it on there, and it grew. Still around today. Gets, I don't know, 100,000 visitors a month or something.
Yeah.
And it had, over the years, I added hymnals,
right,
as well as other kinds of books. So this would be like the hymns of Charles Wesley or something.
Okay. So before the hymnals, what was the main content on the site?
Yeah, so it's books like Augustine's Confessions and The Imitation of Christ and the early church fathers and sort of classics of the faith. Okay,
so I guess to kind of put it in a millennial perspective, it was kind of like your original Amazon books, kind of Amazon free bookstore for
kind of like the Christian first digital library on the internet.
Yeah, well, that's cool. I didn't know that. Kind of my situation. Yeah, I'm a worship pastor, and I use it for the hymns, for the background of the hymns, and for the podcast. I use it for that as well. But yeah, I didn't know it went back to the early days of the internet. So that's
well, hymnary.org got a slightly later start. It was kind of an offshoot.
Okay.
So I had, as I said, 3 or 4 dozen classic hymnals.
Okay.
Southern Harmony, that kind of thing.
Okay. And so you were uploading those on your own. That was kind of like a personal website that you had, kind of browser that you had.
Yeah, kind of like that, like an avocation, spend an hour a day, that kind of thing.
Okay. And I know that you can kind of rattle that off like it just happened in '93, and it's not. It happened and then it moved on to what it is now. But I kind of look at that as it's just the continuation of Christian publication throughout church history. It's just a continuation of God's guidance in that, and that's a cool thing to see. When we'll look back and say, well, this is when the internet started, and right after that, we believers were still in the business of getting the good news out through however we could. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
So what was the need that you found? So you found this kind of source, this platform to use. What was the need that you saw in uploading these hymns and hymnals and resources?
The sort of the overall motivation is serve the church, make these classics available, make them, there was a day, you may not remember this, but there was a day when it was hard to find some of these things. You have to actually go to a library, maybe drive across the country. So making these things available to millions of people, it was a very new and very cool idea that you could find these things on the web back in the day.
Yeah. So what is your church background? So you're professionally, you're in computer sciences, but as far as your faith, kind of what does that look like?
Yeah, I teach at Calvin University, which is owned by the Christian Reformed Church.
Okay.
I'm a member of the Christian Reformed Church that's Reformed, kind of along the lines of Presbyterian. I come from a long line of Christians. My father was a Christian philosopher. I have another uncle who was a seminary professor and so on. But
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about this. So we kind of know the background, your background in the website's background, and now kind of like I said, whenever I use Hymnary, it's usually I'm sitting there planning a service. There's a hymn that I want to bring up. At my church, we're blended, so we do contemporary and traditional or hymns. And so I'll use a lot of the backgrounds of the hymns that that are uploaded. So how can churches or worship leaders or pastors really use this website to help them in their ministry?
Yeah, well, so when we took all the hymnals from this digital library and made Hymnary, the idea was that we wanted to serve the needs of three kinds of users. Hymnologists, people doing research of some sort, worship planners, worship leaders, and the general public interested in hymns and for devotional purposes or curiosity or whatever. But thinking of those worship leaders, worship planners were kind of the largest group of users. And so they had maybe a larger mind share when we put the site together. But what we decided to do was to gather as much information as we could about hymns, and even prepare some information. So you'll find page scans, you'll find scores, things that we've written about the background or history of the hymn, how it can be used in worship. You'll find versions from different hymnals, so you can find textual variations that you might be interested in. So we tried to make a long, thorough page of lots of information about hymns. And some of it is of interest more to hymnologists and worship leaders, like how it's been used historically, how popular it was historically, what hymnals it's included in.
And that has definitely helped me in doing that and finding those kind of stories that are honestly really hard to find. You know, I mean, you can go to, Wikipedia and look for that kind of thing, but, to really know you're getting a trusted source is helpful. And I know for a fact that it definitely helps worship pastors and all the like. And so how would maybe someone use it for maybe their devotional time? How would someone who's maybe not into vocational ministry, how could they use that?
Well, we find a lot of people, the way a lot of people find the site is they're looking something up. They remember a song from their youth. There's a song that a grandparent wants to use at their funeral and they can't find the source, but Google searches bring people there. We actually have been working on a new capability that might be useful for worship, for people interested in sort of devotional uses, and for home churches and for churches that don't have musicians. And if you go back just to where you were on the screen just before, click on that Flex Present.
Right here?
No, to the left side of the screen. A little bit to the right.
There it is. Sorry, my bad. Right there in front of me. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, click on that. So if you want to, you can press the play button down there.
Okay.
And I don't know if you're hearing anything. I'm not. But
we're getting it through.
Yeah. Anyway, this is a new capability that lets you listen to a song as you read the words. We have some human performances included. You can link a YouTube video. So you could use that for personal worship.
I didn't even know we could do that. And that's definitely helpful because, for me, I'm not a great sight reader, and so I don't always know exactly, especially kind of an obscure hymn that I like the lyrics for. It would be great to know the actual tune. So
there you go.
Without having to go to YouTube and you never really know what you're going to find. That's definitely helpful, especially for those who might use like a Book of Common Prayer. Somebody who uses like that, I could see that definitely being helpful. And now one feature, you also have My Hymnary. Is that right?
Yes.
So what is that? What exactly is that?
So after Hymnary had been around for about 10 years and we'd gone through the entire 10-year plan and implemented everything or tested everything and decided it really wasn't a good idea in the first place, we needed a new 10-year plan. This was about 4 years ago. And so I did some research into how people use hymns, how they present them, what kinds of support we could provide. Being located in a computer science department, we've got technical skills that aren't very common among music publishers. So what can we do? So, and we were also addressing feedback that we've received that, some people say there's too much there. I find it hard to find what I'm looking for.
Right. Yeah.
And we also wanted to address some additional questions like, what can we do with contemporary music? Can we, what about things that are copyrighted? Can we have copyrighted things and license them? So a whole bunch of issues that we wanted to focus on the needs of worship leaders. And so that all came together in what we're calling My Hymnary, which is going to be focused on the needs of worship planners. It's going to have lyrics and scores, maybe chord sheets or scores for everything. Some recordings. It's going to help you plan services by suggesting songs.
Yeah, that would definitely be helpful. And I guess I didn't realize that's quite. I had the idea that it was just kind of your account, but that's definitely helpful. So really, it's really a worship planning resource.
And one more key thing is that it's also a publishing platform. So if there's a group like, say, the Liturgy Fellowship Facebook group with people who plan worship services and share music with each other, it will enable them to create a website for themselves where they can upload music, share music, publish their own music, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm on the liturgy fellowship, but that would be that's good. I know whenever I ask questions on there a lot of, usually you guys are linked to the question that I have for worship planning. So that's good to know.
We're working on a website for you guys.
Okay, cool. Well, cool. We're looking forward to it.
On the My Hymnary platform. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, cool. So just kind of away from the website, you mentioned contemporary music. Kind of how far along do you go with contemporary music in the website? Like if somebody, let's say we have a song that came out 5 years ago, and more of a CCLI kind of deal. Can that be found on your website with resources to it?
On Hymnary or on My Hymnary?
On Hymnary.
Yeah, so Hymnary indexes hymnals.
Okay, so it's strictly if it's in
so
a hymnal.
You will find contemporary music if it's included in a published hymnal.
Okay, so like for example, the one I'm thinking of, like a hymnal, I'm thinking a newer hymnal would be Hymns of Grace, the Master Seminary. Would that be in that library?
If we have that indexed, I don't know off the top of my head if we do, but
and the only thing I think is hymnals with newer songs, and then those are hard to find too. Just like the really really old ones are, so are the brand new ones.
Right. So I mean that's kind of the way hymnals work. They get published several. They spend years selecting songs, and then they're published, and then they're used years later.
Right.
And so usually when you use a printed collection of songs, nothing's going to be there that's very new. But My Hymnary will address that problem better, because it will let people upload songs and share them sort of instantly without waiting for them to be published in a hymnal.
Okay. What would you say is probably your oldest hymnal in the library?
I think we have 17 of them from the 17 before this was a country, something like that.
Okay. Okay. All right. And probably the newest one would be when?
Well, we continue to index new hymnals as they're published.
Okay. I got you. Okay. Well, we kind of already talked about things that are new. But outside of Hymnary and My Hymnary, is there another platform that you use kind of in the same way?
Well, we have a couple of other projects that we work on as a group. I mean, I work at Calvin University. I have about maybe a dozen people that work with me on this project.
Okay.
And funded by a grant from the Calvin Institute of Christian Worship. And in addition to Hymnary and My Hymnary, there's the digital library I mentioned, Christian Classics Ethereal Library.
Okay.
And there's a website called preachingandworship.org, which is just changing its name. But yeah, we do those projects and a couple of other ones.
Okay. And just to kind of wrap things up, I tend to ask everybody this question, but especially if they are heavy into the hymn world. But the question is simply, why hymns in the traditional sense that we think of them? Why do you devote so much time to hymns?
Well, for me, I've really come to realize in a deeper way how important singing is in worship.
Yeah.
When we worship God, just listening doesn't do it for me. I mean, you have to participate in worship somehow.
Right.
And that can be through readings or something like that. But it's for me, most effective through singing. And so I love to sing. I've been, in my tradition, we sing all the songs in 4-part harmony, usually with scores, 4-part scores that most people can read. I know that's not universal, but an important part of worship for me.
Okay, completely agree. All right. Well, Harry, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your time. I'm looking forward to everyone using this resource if they're not yet, and then also to take advantage of my hymnary. I think that can be definitely a useful resource for many people kind of in this world. But thank you so much. I appreciate you joining me.
All right. Thank you. Nice to talk about.
Well, I had a great time just listening to all that Harry had to say and hearing his background and the foundation of this great resource of hymnary.org. If you have the time and you have a song you want to listen to, a topic you want to look up, maybe a hymn writer that you want to learn more about, be sure to use hymnary.org to do that. And as always, I thank you again for watching Hymnology.